We're working on a water trough for our cows, and it's coming into winter here. It's late November, just after Thanksgiving, and we've had trouble with the water freezing. We don't have the new cows that we just got do not have a place to go to for their water other than what we put out for them. So we're going to try to make an insulated water trough here. We're going to attempt it. We've got an old barrel here. It's a plastic barrel that we got for free because it had a hole chewed in the side of it. The lid that goes on there, an animal or a squirrel or a chipmunk or something chewed through it. So we are going to take one of the leftover plastic totes that people use for the salt licks and stuff like that for their cattle. We got a bunch of these for really, really cheap. It will hold water. It's basically just a plastic black bin. So what we're going to do is mark off the height of that plus a little bit, because we're going to use this styrofoam, and I think this came in something that was shipped to us. It's something you normally would throw away. We're taking this styrofoam and we're going to layer this 3 thick. So I took a measurement of the thickness of this. I've already done the cuts on the barrel, so we can pull the top off that. And then basically I'm going to go down in the bottom and just layer that 3 thick. So we're going to take this piece and we're going to place it down in there. I'm going to hand off the camera to you. And place this down in here, and I've actually ripped apart a bunch of the chunks and just kind of threw them down in around the bottom of that. And so what we're going to do, we're going to fit this tub into here. And I did take measurements of the diameter of this to make sure that it would fit before we did this. And my height looks real good. This tub is just a little bit higher than that. So the idea is we want to insulate all the edges of that. Now we still are going to put a water trough heater in the bottom of that, but we're hoping that we can get through a little bit longer with the insulation on that, or if the heater happens to go out or something like that, that water can stay ice free for a little bit longer. So what we're using here is the great stuff, just a gap and crack foam, expanding foam. You can pick this up at any hardware store. I've tried the cheaper off brands of this stuff, and it really doesn't go quite as far. So I've got a couple cans of this we can try, and the dogs are about to play. So what I think we're going to do here is I want to try to spray foam around the bottom a little bit to kind of fill in those gaps, and then we're going to stick that tub down on it. And I believe this stuff, I think you can cure it with water. Okay, so I checked into it. It does say mist with water if you want to speed the curing. So there is some moisture already down in here. I don't know. So this is going to cure out a little bit quicker. So I'm going to try to go around the bottom here. I don't know if you guys can see it. No, Luna. No. All right, so I want to stick the tub down in there. Let's make sure that it's centered. I'm not going to squish out. Yeah, there's still a lot to fill in around the edges there. Down in, it's going to take quite a bit of. We ended up throwing a heavy bucket in the center of it to keep the black bin down. And it's pretty much, I filled it fairly close to the edge here. I just finished with it. We're going to let that sit and expand out, and it'll probably squish out the top everywhere. But I used 4 full cans of the spray foam on it. So we'll see how that does, and I'll show you when we're done. So this is what it looked like after it finished expanding. All that foam came up the top. It did also push in a little bit right here on the sides of the tub. It pushed in on that plastic a little bit. I don't think that's going to hurt anything. I'd rather have enough foam in there than not enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the top edge of this and I'm going to trim that flush the whole way around it, so the cows don't grab a hold of this or anything like that. We'll just trim it flat, and then it can be put out into the pasture, and we'll put some water in it. So what I'm doing to trim this is basically just taking a Sawzall blade, like that, just by hand, and going around that and trimming that to where it's flush. Now I don't know if the cows will get into that or not. We talked about putting something over top of that to keep the cows from chewing on that, but I don't know if they will. If they start getting into it, we'll do something with it. So they have a lane that runs, that runs up around that way and comes down through here, and then their lane comes down here for the water. And this is the tote that we built. We've just got a basic submersible stock tank heater down in there. It's a little hard to see, but that's just plugged into 110, and hopefully that will stay good and insulated. I almost caught interested in trying it without the stock tank heater plugged in for a day. It is barely over freezing today, so I was thinking about that, but we might wait till it gets a little colder to try and see whether that insulation is going to help or not. The other thing we were talking about doing is making a flap that goes over the top of it that they can push up, and that will keep the top from freezing over as much. But unfortunately for this winter, we've just got an IBC tote here that we're filling into a bucket, and then we're just going to fill this up daily for them, check on it often. When we get the other 2 black cows butchered, we will be running just one herd, and at that point we probably will not need to use this, because our herd is going to be moving down. Right now we have our other 2 black cows in the pen down here. We'll be moving down to the other end of the farm where we actually have a spring-fed water trough, and that will be the location where all the cows go to drink. That has not frozen over to this point, so the water moving into it is warm enough coming out of the ground that it doesn't freeze, so that should work out real well. Come on, Luna. Come on, Charlie.